Greetings to all my self-made executives and entrepreneurs. Welcome to Curious Conversation, a live talk show where we bring entrepreneurs together to learn from each other's experiences and ideas to grow and thrive. I'm your host, Adrienne Johnson, the Lady Executive. Each week, we interview entrepreneurs to understand the steps they took to be successful and why. We also invite a live audience to join and ask questions as well, so be sure to add your questions to the chat. My guest today is Aimee Cerka. Aimee is a money confidence coach. After her and her husband faced 3 major financial roadblocks in the last 6 years, she felt she wasn't doing all she could and had let her family down. It always felt like she was struggling, and it seemed as if she worked harder than everyone else. It looked as if money and success came to others easily, and she felt unworthy. Until she found a coach to help her realize the success in her experiences instead of her failures. This allowed her to create and implement systems to grow their network by $2,000 plus, while spending time with her loved ones and on her priorities. Now, Aimee helps motivate women to create the happiness, family life, financial security, and long-term wealth they've deserved. Please help me welcome Aimee Cerka to the show. Thank you so much for joining, Aimee. Welcome.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to be here.
I cannot wait for us to get started with our conversation. The first thing that I want to know is, tell me about this journey to becoming a money confidence coach.
Yeah. So, like you stated a little bit in my bio, like growing up, everything always kind of felt like it was a struggle. There's a specific story that I end up telling all the time was my brother was really good in math. And I always got good grades, but I remember like several times like having conversations with my mom and just sitting there crying because it was so much harder. Like it came easy to him and I had to work my butt off to get there. So that was kind of like the first time that like I really became aware of that, or
Okay.
first time that I remember. But I was a really young single mom. So my first son was born a couple days before my 19th birthday. And I had to figure something out. I had worked my way up in like fast food management, but that wasn't going to work because I needed to be able to work when my son was in daycare.
Mm-hmm.
So after he was born, I had to figure something out. I ended up, I was led into insurance. I think it was a Craigslist ad that I responded to that ended up working in life insurance. It was kind of a work your own hours hustle type thing, which, I had no problem with, but they said I would be able to work when my son was in daycare. Yeah, that wasn't true. They required us to be in the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays until 9 p.m., which is not during daycare hours.
No, not at all.
Yeah. I had to find something else. I loved what I was doing in insurance. So it was really like my first step in the personal finance industry.
Okay.
So it ended up that I was working for a State Farm agency with them helping people like protect the money they already had with their insurance and really making sure they were well protected when it came to their insurance needs. And through a family friend, I got involved, started learning some personal development skills to help me with State Farm, which led to me being signed up into my first network marketing company. I got a phone call from my mom that was like, "What's your social? I'm putting you in this thing." And it was like, okay. But as I got into that, the goal, I had a great boss and I was always able to be there for like the major things for my son, but I wanted to be there for the everyday moments, which is really what sparked the journey for me to figure something out. I had to be able to make income from home. So I was in a network marketing company there for several years, met my husband, we got married. I was 3 months pregnant with our second. We made the decision that I could leave my job, that I could be home full time, spend time with my oldest before the baby was born, all of those things, which 3 days later, we had a business deal go bad. So we went to zero income over a span of 3 days at 3 months pregnant. It's kind of crazy. So there was a lot of hustle and like figuring stuff out. So that was like the first kind of start of that financial roadblock, the really major one that really changed everything.
Right.
So we figured it out, 50% income cut. So when my son was born, everything was great, pregnancy, no complications. But a couple of hours after he was born, he turned purple on the table when the pediatrician came in to do their check on him.
Oh no.
So yeah, they discovered he had something called esophageal atresia with the TEF fistula, which meant that his esophagus and his stomach weren't connected. He was transferred over to Cook Children's, because I know you're local, the local children's hospital. Had his first surgery at less than 48 hours old and was there a total of 7.5 weeks. And it was during that time that that was where one of my biggest money mindset blocks was formed. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize it was happening for years, because I was there physically. And even though we had done so much with our finances because of what I had learned, I had made more income because of what I had learned, and I was able to leave my job. And then I was there with my kid when it really mattered. Because I wasn't producing an income in my business at the time, I felt like I failed my family. And it wasn't until that conversation years later that I was able to look at it objectively and see that if it wasn't for everything that we had done and everything that we'd gone through, I wouldn't have been able to be there for my son like I had wanted to and like I was able to. After we left the NICU, he had something that was called a G button. So it's a port in his stomach that all of his nutrition went through. We had appointments weekly for years. Now he's a G button graduate now. He's doing great. No complications, all of that. He's a little small but mighty. So because of all of that, I realized how, during the transition there with Wyatt, when he was in the NICU, I realized how important finances were. And that was really when I began to focus on the financial aspect. And it wasn't until a couple of years later that I decided to truly launch my own company and focus on the financial literacy and helping create unstoppable finances. Because I think if we've learned nothing else in the last 2 years, it's that something will come up. It's just what are we doing to prepare for it, but really doing it in a way that aligns with your values and your priorities. And we're not working 80-hour work weeks or living off of beans and rice, because there's a lot of gurus out there that talk about that, like cut all your expenses just so you can do this thing. And like, we had to live life while we're becoming financially savvy.
Wow. When you talk about life happening, you had a lot of life happening, and it happens for everybody, right? Something is always going to come up. But I like your renewed perspective of the fact that you need to understand that what you've done to prepare is why you were able to be there with your son. That's an emotional story, Aimee. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
We didn't even get into like my husband's hospitalization and all of that, because that was another like, oh my goodness. And that was a couple of years later, like after Wyatt. But that was really like the transformation point. That was my rock bottom that allowed us to start to move forward.
See, and a lot of people are afraid to hit rock bottom, right? So just listening to your story, maybe motivation enough for some to say, okay, you know what, let me get this together. Just that story alone, go, right? I know I'm terrified to hit rock bottom. So, and to your point about, the individuals that are out there, Dave Ramsey, I think, is one of them, who's like, cut all your expenses and just put $1,000 away to start your savings. And, and we've been there. I've been there myself, where, dinner was red beans and rice, or, like that's the extravagant part of it, or hot dogs. And, we gotta eat cheap, right? To get through. But that's a really deep story there. Thank you for sharing that with all of us. So in us speaking previously, you said you got with a coach and they helped you kind of understand and helped you change the mindset. So talk a little bit more about mindset, specifically a scarcity mindset with a lot of individuals, because I know that's something that's really big. Like, we always think that there's not going to ever be enough. And that's not technically the most positive and, what's the right word? It's not the best way to move forward when either on a personal level or a business level.
Exactly. And I think the important thing here is we talk a lot, or I talk a lot about money mindset blocks. So our money mindset is formed by the age of 9. Now, I have a 9-year-old, and I can tell you that, like, we were raised by humans and we are human. So like there was some flaws there, right? But the important thing to realize when it comes to your money mindset is it's not even necessarily what's true. Like what I mentioned with my story, I had created this perception, this lack that's coming up. So we all have that, the scarcity mindset that comes up, and it shows up in various ways. So for example, I was talking on a podcast just the other day about focusing on your debt payoff and how that's actually a scarcity mindset. So, when you focus on your debt payoff, the debt is a negative thing. It's a lack. It's a lack thing. So yes, we really should work on getting out of consumer debt. It's not the end all be all, and that's not really where we want to go. If we're focusing on abundance and creating that like abundant mindset,
Mm-hmm.
we need to focus on our net worth instead, because that's really where we're at financially. Yes, your debt payoff is going to be affected when you focus on your net worth, but it's these simple little switches that we have to make that we all have. We all have things that come up that we default towards the negative. For most of us, I can ask you, like, what did your parents say growing up about money? And we'll say something about like money doesn't grow on trees, rich
Mm-hmm.
people are evil, we can't afford that. And all of those things added into, we've created these default settings. And that's what we think of
Mm-hmm.
when we think our thoughts, feelings, and emotions around money. So it happens like without us even realizing it. So I think the first step in overcoming that scarcity mindset is just to look for it. When you're saying these things, like, okay, is this really true? There was a 3-step question process that that same coach helped me create whenever I had these money mindset block obstacles come up, and I would create these breakdowns. Because yes, that event happened. How old is Wyatt now? Wyatt's 5. Yes, he's 5. So 5+ years ago now, because he's 5.5, then I would still have, there was things that would happen that would trigger it. Because your subconscious mind is designed to protect you, it goes back, it remembers that negative thing, and it's like, oh, we don't want to do that again. And you spiral into a breakdown over something that's not even happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's all done with our mindset. So when you become aware and you're looking for those the scarcity mindset showing up, like you can catch it and ask yourself, like, okay, is this actually true? So the first 2 questions would be like, what's going on right now? And you got to tell me without like emotion, like what is actually going on, what can you actually see? So we're having a conversation right now. The power is out, like those
Right.
type things are actually going on, no emotion. Then ask yourself where is it coming from? And now that part, most of the time I find we have to have a coach help us overcome that. But maybe if you're an amazing go-getter, you can figure it out. Like, what's the story? What event happened in the past that you're pulling this from? But the
Mm.
third question is it actually real? Is whatever we're imagining what's actually going on? So the fact that there's never going to be enough income, or there's too much competition for me to make any money, is that actually true? No. Now, I had to argue with my coach there for a little bit when we first learned this. I'm like, yes, it is. Like, dang it, it is true.
Right. Right.
But in reality, it's not true.
Wow.
We had
So,
to regain.
if my children are listening, I can already hear them saying that it's all my fault. Right? They're like, Mom, you're the reason why we don't have any money right now. So you just heard Aimee say that you have to look at what's happening right now. Look at the
Like
facts,
I
right?
said, we're all human. We've all made mistakes. It's what we do from here on out.
That's what matters. That's what matters. I
Yep.
understand. That's so when for the business owners out there, you talked about net worth, and we had a gentleman on who was talking to us about net worth in regards to business finances, right? Really understanding what net worth is about. Can you talk to that a little bit further in regards to the money mindset and the people that are watching, the audience that are watching, are business owners, but they also, in order to have your business finances straight, you have to have your personal finances straight, right? So speaking to
Absolutely.
that net worth on a personal level, and then kind of how it flows over into their business finances.
Definitely. So your net worth, I think I said, like, it's your true financial picture of where you're at because it takes into account both sides, your assets and your liabilities. So when we look at that, we really see where we're at because maybe you're in a spot where there's not a lot of money in the bank, which as inflation continues to rise, it's not always smart anymore to keep like 6 months emergency savings in the bank anymore. Like you're just wasting money. That's not smart anymore. But because we're investing things, we're still going to see that in your net worth. So, for those, if you don't know, your net worth is your assets minus your liabilities. Okay. So, let's say, for example, your vehicle. So, how much your vehicle is worth is the asset. How much you owe on it is still the liability, and it's added into. Same for your home. Your furnishings in your home is part of your net worth. The one that I joke about that just a couple months ago that I realized wasn't on our net worth sheet was our wedding rings. I got the insurance policy renewal and was like, wait a second, I have like these diamonds that we wear every single day and it's not included in our net worth. It's those little things. It's all technically part of your net worth and what you own and like where you're at financially because those things were important. We spent money on them, it's a priority and we need to accurately reflect that when we're observing our finances. And I find checking your net worth is one of the things that we always say to do if you're having a rough time financially, or maybe you're just having a bad day and like you're beating yourself up. Like go back to your net worth, and the little pro tip that I talk about that I recommend, it's coming out of the podcast next week, I think, is look at your progress over 30, 60, and 90 days.
Mm,
Because sometimes we have investments that we have to make. This can be personal and business side. So a couple months ago, we put about $2,000 in car repairs into one of our vehicles. Well, technically, our net worth took a hit of $2,000 because we moved the money out of the savings account to pay for it. But it was something that we were able to do because of the work that we had done prior. So if we were just looking at that month and the hit that it took, then we would have felt defeated. But if you look at what your progress has been over time, you're going to really be able to see that perspective. There's so many things that are included in your net worth, and part of your, depending on how you structure your business, it could be one net worth worksheet, one net worth sheet, or you could separate it out to have your business and your personal. I know that on the one that I use, we have a spot like for the business assets
mhm.
that could be included there as well. Or you could look at it separately, depending again how the business is structured.
Interesting. Very interesting. So when the individual is looking at their net worth, right? And let's say they're starting at the bare bottom, right? They don't have a lot. How can what can you say to those individuals about trying to, do you recommend liquidating their assets in order to have a little cash flow if they're trying to start a business or to invest in their business? What's your thoughts around that?
You definitely can. I think that we all should have home businesses, especially here in the US. Like for the tax advantages alone, it's a no brainer. Which, of course, you got to consult with your
Of
accountant,
course.
CPA, all of those things. But like on that aspect alone, it's a no brainer. But when it comes to starting a business, we do need to be strategic about it. And the amount of income that you have to cash flow your business, because we don't want to put yourself in a position where you've spent everything starting your business. Oftentimes, what we find is the money mindset or the mindset that shows up behind it is desperation, and it's
Mm,
not really where we want to be. There are times and there are people that can make it work where you just like leave everything behind and like go at it. But for a lot of us, we need a little bit of cushion. So when we talk about financial security and being secure in your finances, we have about 3 months worth of assets available. Now, 1 month at least has to be like liquid. If something happened and you lost all of your income tomorrow to be able to pay your bills, but month two can be some marketed assets. This could be like investments in the stock market. This could be cryptocurrency, as I know, really hot right now. But having those things that are invested and getting you a little bit of return, but if something happened and you had to have the money, you could liquidate those if you need to. And then month three can be more like long term assets that take a little bit longer to liquidate. We've talked about extra vehicles, jewelry, real estate, and those things.
Mhm.
As long as you're not sacrificing where you're at and you're still keeping a good, solid financial security, good financial standings, I'd say go for it. Liquidate those assets that you need to be able to step into your business, because you can have so much more of a return
Right.
when you have a business versus anything you could in the stock market at all.
I love it. I love it. So, and you coach everybody on this. If they were to work with you, you would talk to them and understand their goals, right? Their financial goals, and work with them in regards to that.
Definitely. So I am not a financial advisor, so it's not like official advice, but
Sure,
I have no
sure.
problem providing you education. That's something that we do inside Money Masters Inner Circle, which is my membership. We provide tons of trainings on how to get started. We're going to do a fun business related one and setting up your business finances for success in 2022. So I'm really excited about that.
Exciting.
But that that structure in and of itself, really, it works well because we're able to kind of give you the information. You get to see where things are at, but then we get to check in with you and like, okay, someone with that outside perspective again, like they know what's going on and we can have that conversation and make sure it's a smart choice for you.
Understood. Understood. So I was on your website and I took the quiz. That was what's the title of it? What is my money mindset?
You're
And I ended up being a peacock. Can you tell me what that is? What are all the different options, and what exactly is a peacock? I thought that
yeah,
was
so
cute.
it's of course. And I think that fits probably. Your money personality. And I find that they're all animals. So we have the peacock, we have the chipmunk, which if you can guess is probably the saver, because the stuff in the
Yes.
nuts in the mouth are
Yes.
the ones that like to save and hold on to everything. We have the sloth, which is the one that's my brother, is a sloth. Like just the go with the flow. There's no like intentional like into anything. We're just like making it happen. I'm always impressed by the sloths because that is totally not me. Then the peacock, and then we have the eagle. So with the peacock, I had to pull up my notes here. So the peacock, definitely, you love money, you love the options that you can buy with it, but you're the person that like wants to do things with your money. So you're probably like paying for others. Maybe you're picking up the tab when you go out with friends. Maybe you're doing more of like the giving. You're giving more. You like to have like the newest things, but it's not just about like having everything. It's what you can do with the money. So you know that you can make more money so that you can go do more fun things with it and go buy stuff and be able to help others with it as well.
Okay, I'll take that.
I was gonna ask if you thought that was
Yes, no,
accurate.
I'll take that. So I'm not much of I don't need to have like the latest iPhone, but I do like
Okay.
to stay in the times, right?
Mhm.
Of things. I think that's rather accurate. I do enjoy being able to do things. So I do want to make money so I can do things, and not just, save it away for a rainy day and just let it sit there. I do. And as you're telling me these different personalities, I'm thinking about people that are in my life, specifically my children. And I think I have a chipmunk, definitely, as well as there's another peacock there. And what's a sloth? Explain a sloth to me.
A sloth is going to be somebody who is very like laid back, go with the flow. They don't really know what's going on with their finances. We're just like living life in the moment. You're not in a hurry to change that. There's not like a lot of planning going on with like improving your finances. It's just kind of like, I guess living in the moment is the best way that I
Yep,
can think
I
of.
got one of those
So
too.
we're enjoying life, but we're not worried about planning for the future.
I got one of those too. And when we get off of this call, I'm sure they're going to be like, "Well, I'm sure you're not calling me a sloth."
They're so
But
cute, and you have to look at the page. Like it's a
yes,
really cute sloth picture.
Hilarious. That's very funny. That's very funny. So, a lot of people start their business because they want to make money, and that's their driving force beyond just living better, right? So, what are your thoughts about, the mindset of it has to be about money versus, you know, following their passion? You have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, and I think the problem that comes up, because there is nothing wrong with making money. That's another negative factor that media, Hollywood, all those things like have tried to like pretend money is evil. And money is not evil. Like we both know it's a tool, it's what we do with it
Right.
that matters. So when we're pursuing the money, but the problem is there's kind of two problems. So the first problem is if we're not pursuing something that we're happy with, it's
Hmm.
not going to give us the long term results that we want. So it can be a means to an end. And if you're really stuck and you're just trying to get things going, yes, but the goal should always be to be fulfilled. I know there's a saying out there that like do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And I don't think I agree with that because we're always going to have to do things that we don't like.
Right.
But if you do something you're passionate about, like it's not always about work. I know myself and several other entrepreneurs, like I had to put a timer on my phone to tell me to stop working because I do enjoy what I do, but my family is also a priority as well.
Mm.
So if you're not doing something that leaves you fulfilled, it might be okay in the beginning, but long term, we all know so many CEOs where we've seen them where they make all this money, but they're miserable
Miserable.
and they're unhappy and all of these things because we talk about, which is going to bring me to the second problem. So there's three main aspects of your finances. We've got defense, which is making the most of the money you already have,
Hmm.
offense, which is increasing your income, and then battlefield, which is money mindset, economics, rules of the game, those things. And then we have profit power ups, which are all the other areas of life that affect your finances, which is kind of what I was talking about with like taking care of yourself and relationships. And if you're fulfilled in what you're doing, it's going to help with the income you're making, anyways. But a lot of times when we're just focusing on the money, and I've met a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm like, okay, we're making money, we're making awesome. Maybe you're making like six figures or something. So we're doing great, but we're not taking care of the other aspects of our money. It's not actually well rounded and it's not actually secure. So if something again happens tomorrow, you're going to be in trouble. So if we do something that we love and we do it well rounded, not only with our finances and with ourself, you're going to see more returns on that. But if you're doing something that you don't love, like to get out of the situation that you're in, make sure you're focusing and thinking about like where you actually want to go to help you get through that time, but also make sure that you don't get sucked into where you're at.
I understand. I understand. That's great advice. Great advice. So, um, we are coming up on our time, but I do want to remind everybody that is out there, if you have any questions, make sure you get it into the chat panel, so that we can get those questions over to Aimee and get them answered for you. I do have a couple more questions for you, Aimee, before we go to the audience. However, so how does one improve their outlook on money?
Well, the first step, we have a little blueprint here. The first step is being aware of where you're at right now. So, there's three quick questions that I can give you real quick so you can
Sure.
write this down. This is really like a longer process we go through, but at a minimum, right? If I say money is whatever the first thing is that comes to mind. Now, especially as entrepreneurs and personal development junkies, like sometimes something comes to mind and we're like, no, I know better. That's not right. If it's the first thing that comes to mind,
Go
that's
with your
still where
first
our
mind.
subconscious, it's still where we're programmed at. So we still got to write it down, even though we know it's not true. So money is what, wealth is what, and the reason I haven't achieved my financial goals is
Hmm.
a lot of people tell me I don't know. And my response to that, if you don't know, if you had to guess, what would you guess?
Okay,
And
so
most of
let's.
the time we'll come up with
And this may take a minute, but let's. I'm gonna do it with you. Okay, so ask me the
okay.
question.
Money is
Money is a resource.
okay. Wealth is
the ability to do what I can do to enjoy life and leave a legacy for my family.
Okay. Oh, I'm getting power back.
Oh, there you
the
go.
reason the reason I haven't achieved my financial goals.
Fear.
Fear of what?
Now I'm going to say I don't know. Fear of failure, right? Fear
Okay.
of stepping out outside of my comfort zone in order to make that money, doing what I know I need to do in order to make that money.
Yeah. So for most of us, it's a fear of failure, a fear of being rejected, one of
Mm-hmm.
those things. So oftentimes we can think of something where we failed in the past, but it's also one of those natural things. So the exercise that we walk through after that is what would happen if you failed, which we don't have to do this now if you
Right, right,
want,
right,
but
right, right.
we walk through like, okay, what would happen if you failed? Like, what would that look like? And then what would you do? So because we walk through that process and give you a game plan of what would you do moving forward
Mm-hmm.
after you failed, oftentimes it's not as scary. And then we pick one thing to take action on, ideally today or this week. Oh, and there it goes again. Glad I stayed on my hotspot.
Right.
But
No
one
worries.
thing that you can do to take action, and even if it's not something that you can actually take action on, there's somebody that I follow, they call it a guaranteed growth goal. So maybe it's taking the first step. So maybe you want to become a better speaker, so signing up for Toastmasters. Maybe you want to become a better copywriter, so signing up for a copywriting course, taking
Okay.
that first step. Like personally, you could be like signing up for a marathon or something, just so that it'll kind of get the ball rolling. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like a physical, put yourself out there action step, but one step in the next direction.
Interesting. Very, very enlightening. So it requires you to do some self-reflecting, is what I
Yeah.
understand. So that's pretty awesome. Thank you, Aimee, for that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So let's go to the questions on the chat. And let's see. We have a couple of people that said hello. Let's read through. Let's see. Do you set up budgets and help individuals set up budgets?
Yes. So there's two different levels there. Inside the program, Money Masters Inner Circle, and there's a standalone budgeting course as well that we give you all of the training, but then you can also have that private support for me to help actually set it up for you, because that's where most people get stuck.
Okay. And it looks like I'll give folks just a few more minutes. It looks like that was the last question that came in. Um, can you work with entrepreneurs to set up financial plans? But you said you weren't a financial planner, so to speak, but
I'm not a financial planner, yeah. I
okay,
can give you the education and provide you the information to do it, but I cannot make specific
recommendation
recommendations
financially.
on like investment planning and all of those things.
Okay, okay. Um, how do we get in contact with Aimee? Well, I'm going to help everybody with that. So, and it looks like that was the last question. So I'll hop in. So first off, you can always reach out to Aimee on her website. Aimee, you want to talk about your website real quick?
Yeah, so we've got the free gift here on the screen. This is the Money Mindset Mastery Checklist. This is 10 simple steps to help you create an unshakable money mindset. We put this together after like numerous client conversations and the things that I've gone through to find the 10 most common things that hang people up when it comes to our money mindset. So if you feel like you're missing a piece of the puzzle, you're doing all the action, definitely grab the Money Mindset Mastery Checklist, because it'll help you out and moving forward. And I'm really big on keeping it simple, no fluff needed, all of those things. You're busy, as am I, so let's make the most of your time and get the information to you quickly.
Right, right. So be sure to pop over to Aimee's website and check out the Money Mindset Mastery Checklist. In addition to that, we also have, you can reach Aimee on all her social media networks. We have Facebook. Aimee's on Facebook at Aimee Cerka. She is on Instagram also at Aimee Cerka. I think you're at Aimee Cerka on everything, right, Aimee?
Everything. Yeah. Instagram is the place that I hang out the most, but I am on all the platforms. I guess Instagram and LinkedIn.
Okay. And then she's also on Twitter. So be sure to check her out and follow her on all of those social media platforms for sure. We'll also make sure that we have all of the information that we spoke about today in our show in the show notes with links and all of that great information for everyone to tap into those resources. Aimee, thank you so much for being a part of our show, being a guest today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Absolutely. I was so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Well, you take care and we will be in touch.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. So everybody, make sure that, again, you head over and you take a look at all of Aimee's resources that she has available for you. It's really important to take care of your personal finances as well as your business finances. The show today was powered by Ecamm Live. Be sure to check out the description for more information about how this wonderful show has come to be utilizing the power of Ecamm Live. Also, make sure that you head over and you take a look at my YouTube page, the Lady Executive on YouTube. This show is being recorded and will be posted there for your view. Also, make sure that you pop over to my Facebook group, the Executive Lounge, where you have the opportunity to join and be a part of this live studio audience, as you saw took place today. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And as always, I'll leave you with my parting thought. Remember, experience is the master teacher, even when the experience is not our own. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye now.